Am not I thine ass, upon which thou hast ridden ever since I was thine unto this day? Just imagine for a second being so incredibly angry, so completely blinded by your own frustration that you don't even blink when your everyday mode of transportation suddenly stops, turns around, and starts cross-examining you in plain language. You don't run away, you don't pass out. No, you just start arguing right back. It is hands down one of the most bizarre, surreal, and surprisingly profound moments in all of ancient literature. So let's dive right into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a close look at the Book of Numbers, specifically chapter 22. Now, regardless of your background or personal beliefs, from a purely literary and historical standpoint, this text is an absolute masterclass in dramatic irony. We're going to unpack the fascinating story of Balaam and Balak. It's a narrative packed with massive geopolitical panic, an ancient spiritual hitman, and a stubborn beast of burden that actually ends up being the smartest one in the entire room. Part 1. Moab fears the Israelites. To truly appreciate the sheer absurdity of where the story ends up, we first have to establish the immense geopolitical tension in the ancient Near East right before this weird confrontation takes place. Notice the stark, almost cinematic contrast in the language used in the source text here. On one side, we've got the Israelites migrating out of Egypt. The text doesn't just say they're a large group. It describes them as this massive, sweeping force that covers the face of the earth. The local leaders are literally saying, "This company will lick up all that are round about us as the ox licketh up the grass." I mean, that is genuinely terrifying apocalyptic imagery for a local king. On the flip side of this comparison, we have the Moabites and their king, Balak. The text plainly states Moab was sore afraid and distressed. King Balak is acting out of absolute terror. He's facing what he perceives to be this unstoppable horde camping right on his borders, and he knows for sure that conventional military tactics just aren't going to save him here. Part 2. Balak summons Balaam. Because desperate times call for supernatural measures, King Balak reaches out across the region to summon a man who can solve his military crisis with a powerful curse. Think of Balaam as a highly sought-after, ancient spiritual hitman. The negotiation process here is absolutely fascinating. Balak doesn't just ask once. We see this really desperate, fast-paced back and forth. First, Balak sends messengers with the rewards of divination in hand, basically upfront cash to hire this spiritual mercenary. When Balaam refuses, stating that the Lord won't give him leave to go, Balak immediately escalates. He sends princes who are more and more honorable. He promises to promote Balaam into very great honor, essentially handing him a blank check, saying he'll do whatever Balaam says. The back and forth gets so intense that Balaam actually brings up a hypothetical house full of silver and gold. So the crucial takeaway here is the psychological push and pull. Balak is throwing the absolute maximum amount of earthly wealth and political power at the problem. Balaam keeps professing that he's bound by divine constraints, insisting he can't go beyond the word of God. And yet, tellingly, Balaam keeps asking these rich messengers to stay the night, just in case the divine answer happens to change. You can totally see the ambition bubbling right under the surface of his pious words. Part 3. The Angel and the Donkey. So Balaam eventually gets the green light to travel, but with very strict conditions. He saddles up his donkey and hits the road. But this road trip is where the dramatic tension absolutely peaks, as the text explicitly notes that God's anger was kindled against him because he went. This brilliantly illustrates the central, overarching irony of the entire text. Let's remember who Balaam actually is. He's a seer. He is a renowned visionary, literally famous across nations for his supposed ability to peer into the spiritual realm and manipulate it. Yet here, on the dusty road to Moab, he is utterly, completely blind to the lethal divine threat standing right in front of him. The angel of the Lord is literally standing in the way with a drawn sword, and the great, highly paid prophet sees absolutely nothing. But his simple, everyday donkey, she sees it perfectly. Let's slow down for a second and walk through exactly how this unfolds, because the writer uses a classic, highly effective literary device here, the rule of 3. We get 3 escalating evasive maneuvers by the donkey and 3 correspondingly furious reactions from Balaam. First, the donkey sees the angel and simply turns aside into a field. A mild inconvenience, right? While Balaam violently smites her to force her back on the path. Second, the angel positions himself in a path between 2 vineyard walls. The donkey, trying desperately to squeeze past this terrifying supernatural threat, thrusts herself against the wall, crushing Balaam's foot in the process. Balaam, who is in actual physical pain now, smites her again. Finally, the angel stands in a narrow place with literally nowhere to turn left or right. The terrified donkey just gives up. She collapses, falling down right underneath Balaam. And Balaam, humiliated, hurt, and just boiling with rage, beats her a 3rd time, this time with a heavy staff. The physical tension is ratcheting up with every single step of this journey.
Part 4. The donkey speaks.
Looking directly at the ancient source material, right here in the King James text spanning verses 28 to 30, we see the precise moment the supernatural fully breaches the natural world, breaking all the known rules of reality. It's right in verse 28 that the text delivers the massive shock. "And the Lord opened the mouth of the ass, and she said unto Balaam, What have I done unto thee, that thou hast smitten me these 3 times? It is such a logical, almost weary question from an abused animal. The true miracle isn't just that the vocal cords of a donkey suddenly produce human speech. It's the profound rationality of what she's actually saying. She is demanding basic accountability from a man supposedly deeply in tune with the universe. Now, what's genuinely hilarious and at the same time deeply revealing about human nature is Balaam's response in verse 29. "Because thou hast mocked me, I would there were a sword in mine hand, for now would I kill thee." Notice what doesn't happen here. Balaam doesn't gasp in horror. He doesn't fall to his knees in awe of a miracle. He is so consumed by his own rage, his bruised ego, and his burning ambition to get to Moab to collect his paycheck that he doesn't even pause to register the sheer absurdity of his animal speaking to him. He just yells right back at her like they're old roommates having a spat. He wishes he had a sword to kill her. Ironically, entirely unaware that the angel of the Lord is standing inches away, actually holding a drawn sword ready to strike him down. Part 5. The Seer finally sees. After this bizarre interspecies argument comes to a head, the Lord suddenly removes the blindness from Balaam's eyes, and the terrifying reality of his situation is instantly laid bare. The angel of the Lord steps forward and delivers this incredibly dramatic rebuke. He tells Balaam that his path is perverse, and then drops a staggering, humbling revelation. "Unless she had turned from me, surely now also I had slain thee and saved her alive." So the absolute crucial point we must take away from this is that the stubborn, frustrating beast that Balaam had been violently abusing for ruining his important business trip was in fact the only thing keeping him alive. The lowly animal possessed the true, life-saving spiritual sight, while the elite, arrogant, religious professional was stumbling blindly toward his own execution. When we look at the aftermath of this shocking encounter, we see a massive psychological shift. We've got Balak's continuing arrogance totally contrasted against Balaam's newly forced humility. When the 2 men finally meet, King Balak is still clinging to the illusion of human power. He complains to Balaam, "Am I not able indeed to promote thee to honor?" Balak still fundamentally thinks this is all about money, leverage, and status. But Balaam, having just nearly been executed by a divine assassin, is singing a completely different tune. He replies, "Lo, I am Commonsby. Have I now any power at all to say anything?" Balaam now profoundly understands what the king does not. Human ambition, earthly wealth, and even the grandiose reputations of great men are entirely, completely subordinate to a higher divine will. Which leaves us to ponder the deep, lingering irony of this ancient narrative. In a world obsessed with status, wealth, and perceived expertise, we have to look at this story and ask ourselves, who is the real visionary here? The renowned, highly paid prophet who was utterly blind to the reality right in front of him? Or the stubborn, everyday beast of burden who clearly saw the truth and bravely saved her master's life? It's a brilliant, timeless reminder from this text of just how blinding our own ambition and ego can be. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning what you think you see, and I'll catch you next time.